Welcome, KSLU law students, to today's Explainer. I am your professor, and today, well, we are going to dive straight into a highly repeated, absolutely crucial past year examination topic under Family Law 2. So, please get your notebooks and pens ready. We're looking at a core concept here, one that beautifully bridges traditional personal law with modern statutory interpretations. Focus closely, students, because understanding this exact structure is exactly how you score those first-class marks in your university exams.
Here is the exact university question you're going to frequently encounter. Question 11. Discuss the right of maintenance of wife and divorced Muslim woman. Now, students, please understand, this is a compound question. You cannot just write about the wife and completely forget the divorced woman, or vice versa, right? You absolutely must divide your answer into clear, distinct parts to satisfy the examiner. Let's look at exactly how we structure this.
A perfect answer always requires a clear synopsis. We will cover 1. Introduction, 2. Maintenance of wife, 3. Maintenance of divorced woman, 4. Case laws, 5. Other aspects, and 6. Conclusion.
Let's start with Section 1, Introduction. Note these points very carefully for your introductory paragraph. First, maintenance is the provision for food, clothing, residence, and the basic necessities of life. Second, under Muslim law, maintenance, and students please underline this Arabic term in your exam papers, Nafaqah, is a legal obligation of the husband arising out of marriage. And third, this right continues, subject to conditions, even after divorce, and has been significantly shaped by statutory law and judicial interpretation in India. Using the specific term nafaqah, well, that shows the examiner your strong grasp of Islamic jurisprudence.
Moving to Section 2, Maintenance of Wife under Muslim law. Write this under the heading Meaning and Nature. You must state that maintenance means the obligation of the husband to provide for the essential needs of his wife. Now, what is its nature? It is a personal obligation, and it is independent of the wife's financial status. Listen to this carefully because it's a very important conceptual point. Even if the wife is earning a handsome salary or, comes from a very wealthy family, the husband's personal obligation to maintain her simply does not disappear under Muslim law. Make sure this explanation is written clearly in your notes.
Next up, we have the conditions for claiming maintenance. A wife is entitled to maintenance if the marriage is valid. Write down the term sahih in brackets right next to it. An irregular or void marriage doesn't create the same absolute right. She must also be faithful and obedient, and she must live with the husband. But there's an exception, unless there is a justified separation. For instance, if the husband is cruel, her separation is completely justified and she still retains her absolute right to maintenance. You must write this point clearly. Moving right along to the grounds for refusal of maintenance. A wife is not entitled if she is disobedient without reasonable cause, if she refuses cohabitation, or if she is guilty of misconduct. Students, these are the specific legal defenses a husband possesses. You must memorize these perfectly because university examiners always look to see if you actually know the exceptions to the general rule. The final subheading for the wife is the amount of maintenance. So, how does the family court decide the actual quantum? Well, it depends on 3 specific things: the husband's income, the wife's needs, and their social status. Please note these 3 points down. The court carefully balances the husband's actual capacity to pay against the reasonable lifestyle the wife is accustomed to. It's essentially an equitable calculation. Let's transition to Section 3, Maintenance of Divorced Muslim Woman. Students, pay strict attention here as we look at the historical evolution. This is exactly where students often lose marks because they confuse traditional law with modern statutes. Under the traditional position, maintenance was limited to the iddat period only. That's the mandatory waiting period observed after divorce. But statutory development changed everything. Now, this is a scoring point. Governed by the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986, the husband must provide a reasonable and fair provision, and it must be done within the iddat period. Notice the vital shift in language there, from just maintenance to a reasonable and fair provision. Next, subheading 3 is modern judicial interpretation. The courts expanded the scope to ensure long-term protection. This means maintenance is not restricted strictly to iddat. The Indian judiciary essentially realized that leaving a divorced woman to fend for herself after just 3 months of iddat was leading straight to destitution. So they took a proactive role to protect these women, and that perfectly sets up the context for the absolute most important part of your exam answer, the case laws.
Which brings us to Section 4, Case laws.
In KSLU examinations, an answer without case laws is quite literally like a body without a soul. Citing these landmark judgments is mandatory. Write down our first case and double underline it. Mohammed Ahmed Khan v. Shah Bano Begum. Here, the Supreme Court held that a Muslim divorced woman is entitled to maintenance under Section 125 of the CrPC. They stated that personal law cannot override welfare provisions. This is a truly landmark case ensuring protection of divorced Muslim women. Shah Bano is the absolute most important case law you must remember. It practically established that secular welfare law applies to protect citizens from destitution, totally regardless of religion.
The second case you must cite is Daniel Latifi v. Union of India. Note the exact points here. The court interpreted the 1986 Act to mean that the husband must make a reasonable and fair provision for the future of the wife. Crucially, the provision must be made within iddat but covers post-iddat needs. This is just brilliant judicial interpretation. The court basically said, yes, the payment or arrangement is made during the iddat period, but the actual amount must be sufficient to secure her entire future. Definitely use this case law for better marks.
Moving on to Section 5, Other Important Aspects. To make your answer truly comprehensive, you must include maintenance under Section 125 CrPC. Note that it is applicable to all women irrespective of religion, and its main goal is that it prevents destitution. Secondly, highlight the right of children. Children are also entitled to maintenance. A father's obligation to maintain his legitimate or illegitimate children is absolute, ensuring the children simply do not suffer due to the parent's divorce.
And finally, under this section, include the role of courts. Courts ensure justice, equity, and protection of women's rights. The judiciary acts as the ultimate guardian here, naturally stepping in where strict traditional interpretations might lead to unfairness or undue hardship.
And that brings us to Section 6, Conclusion. I want you to write this conclusion word for word in your exam. The right of maintenance under Muslim law has evolved from a limited traditional concept to a broad, welfare-oriented right. Judicial decisions have played a crucial role in ensuring that divorced Muslim women are not left destitute and receive fair and reasonable support. Look at how beautifully that summarizes everything we discussed today. From traditional Nafaqah to Shah Bano to the 1986 Act and finally Daniel Latifi. It really forces us to ask a provocative question, doesn't it? How will personal laws continue to adapt as society's understanding of gender justice and equity evolves? Keep that thought with you. Study these points carefully, reproduce this exact structure, and you will absolutely excel in your examination. Class dismissed.